Hi there, welcome back to another video on this channel. Today we're going to have a more of a sentimental video because today is my brother's birthday. At least it is today as of I'm recording it. I'm trying to get up tonight for a surprise, but if I don't, oops. But February 4th is my brother's birthday, and last time I had a family member's birthday, it was my mom's back in August, and I decided to do a Pokemon video dedicated to just her. And I thought I would do the same with my brother since, today is his birthday. And so basically, I had him pick out his top favorite 6 Pokemon based on that little based on the software I made my mom use last time. Of course, this is updated with the new Sword and Shield Pokemon too. But I sent that his way, and he picked his top 6. And looking at his team, I decided to make a story, make a narrative based on that as well. And he did a little bit better picking than my mom did, of course. I mean, he's younger, so he didn't really grow up with Pokemon the same way I did. Most of his exposure in childhood was like watching me play and stuff, but that doesn't mean he's not involved now. I don't think he like buys any of the Pokemon games or stuff, but like if I want to play Pokemon Go, he'll play, or at least he knows of the culture because of his friends, and it's unavoidable at this point. So I'm just gonna throw up his 6 favorite Pokemon here and kind of tell the story of his team based on that. So his first favorite Pokemon is Hariyama, like deadass #1, and I kind of knew that already, especially since his spirit Pokemon. Yes, I made him do the spirit Pokemon test too. His spirit Pokemon was actually a Makuhita, but of course, like if you have the chance to evolve it, why not? So Hariyama is his first choice of Pokemon, and I am trying to remember the order after that. I'm sorry, I'm such like a bad big sister. But I think it was Gengar was his second favorite, which again is pretty popular among like popular Pokemon in general, but especially among like young guys. And then I believe it was Grovyle, then Incineroar, then Sableye, and then finally Appleton, which threw me for a loop, but in a pleasant way. So based on this team, this is what we're going to have his story be. We are going to, even though our mom had a bunch of Kanto Pokemon and did all that, I'm going to have us move over to the Hoenn region. And so to keep this within the time frame, we did move after our parents' divorce. So I'm going to place his trainer journey post-divorce. I think he would have been around 10 anyway, so it's a little bit fitting. So say we moved to Hoenn. Okay, we did that. It was really funny growing up because I think I was playing Emerald for the first time, and my brother and sister started getting like noticing Pokemon more and getting into it, and we had like dolls. And I remember my sister would always pick Torchic, Garrett would always pick like Trico, because obviously that's like the boy choice or whatever, and I'd always pick Mudkip because I'm the biggest dork out of the 3 of us, right? So we kind of already have our team set, at least like with these 3 different Hoenn starters. And since Grovyle's already on Garrett's team, I figured, hey, this is a great introduction. So obviously he's probably the last to go on his journey. But subsequently, because his older sisters picked the other 2 starters, he picked Trico. Of course, that's like not really compromised since that's the one he likes, but that's why I'm framing it. So I'm having him go around starting off like his basic trainer journey or whatever. And he's doing fairly well, but he's going to get to a part in his Hoenn journey where he really kind of takes a step and reflects on what he wants to be or what kind of trainer he wants to be instead of like a traditional trainer. After a little boat ride with Morpeko and once he gets to Brawley's gym, he's going to decide then and there that like he just sees Brawley as the big brother figure he's never had, right? He's going to completely follow heads over heels with Brawley's Makuhita and decide, I need one for myself. So he's going to go off and do a bunch of training in the caves on that island, and eventually catch himself a Makuhita and a Sableye, because again, it's like kind of impish, it's in the cave, and like it's a good dichotomy for him to not only like go on, and he's always had this like fighting spirit about him. Like, I mean, he's fighting in the sense of like, I need to be heroic, and in the sense of just admiring like fighting styles and stuff too. And so he has these 2 Pokemon, and he decides to devote himself to Brawley and become a disciple and an apprentice of at least Pokemon with a fighting spirit, not necessarily fighting types, because Makuhita at this point in time is his only fighting type Pokemon on his team. So he trains and trains, and eventually his Makuhita evolves into Hariyama, and his Trico evolves into Grovyle. I think it's important for him to just stay as a Grovyle, not a Sceptile. Because even in design, Grovyle kind of reminds me of like, like in Naruto when they're hopping through the trees in the village, and like it's kind of winding going by them. For me, Grovyle has that same sort of aesthetic, and I think it's also important, and I'm sure, I don't know if Garrett knows this or not, but like Grovyle's role in the Mystery Dungeon games is pretty heroic as well, and I think if he understood that characteristic, it would make him want to pick Grovyle even more. I'm not going to say what, because some of you may have played Mystery Dungeon, others may not, so no spoilers. And also, incentive, Garrett, go play that game. Play more Pokemon games. So, yeah, so he's training under Brawley, and he's proved himself to be a worthy disciple, a worthy apprentice. Brawley, with his fellow fighting type connections over in Alola, he is traded over a Litten and decides to give it to Garrett, like a graduation gift, I guess. I don't know. So obviously that's where Incineroar eventually grows into. Incineroar, although it's not a fighting type, is very much inspired by wrestling, and has more of a devious type of spirit, right? And I think this is also fitting for my brother, because my brother is a Slytherin, and he I feel like Slytherins are painted off as like evil people or bad guys. And I can just say this about the three. Okay, so the three, like my brother, my husband, and one of my like best friends are all three Slytherins. And I think it's not really as much as like being a bad guy, but being more realistic and headstrong, and knowing that like you need to put your own needs first in order to better take care of others, or even if you're not interested in taking care of others, whatever. And I think for my brother, he's knowing him and who he is, he's always the one that would be like the first one to help you out too. But he's also kind of skeptical. He's met some good and bad people in his life, so that's something that he has to wrestle with himself. And I think Incineroar is a good example of that, because it's like supposed to be a heel, so it's supposed to be like a bad guy wrestler, but that doesn't mean it's like a bad Pokemon at all, right? I think it might have been the anime, or maybe I'm making this up, but Incineroar also refuses to fight opponents that he thinks are weaker in it, and part of it's out of pride, but also like you don't want the other Pokemon to get hurt, obviously, right? So I think that's a really good fit. And now that he's finished his apprenticeship, he takes his time off to go visit back home. And my mother, as a gift for him, and recognizing all of his achievements and everything else, I think she decides to trade over a Pokemon from Kanto, since that's originally where she's from, and gives it to Garrett as well, as another memento, or a recognition that he's budding out on his own as a young man. So that's how he gets Gengar. The hunter straight over and turns into a Gengar, obviously. And I think this is also fitting too, because my mom, one of the three Pokemon on her team happens to be a Clefairy, and there is like obviously this really popular underground theory that Gengar is like the shadow of a Clefairy, or that the two Pokemon are intertwined. So it's a good symbol of like their relationship being intertwined, and also kind of differentiating them enough in terms of like personality, but recognizing that there is that connection. And I also think Gengar is pretty fitting, because it also reminds me of like, even though it's not a fighting type, or it's not meant to do anything like that. I mean, Pokemon battle, so automatic, like they're going to fight. But the scene where like Gengar in the which show is it? The new, I think it's called Chronicles, that has Red go through and battle everybody, but it's a new animation style. And in it, Agatha, like when she opens her cane with the Pokeball on it, the Ghastly kind of just slithers out like a shadow and comes on up. And again, I hate to keep making Naruto references, but it reminds me of Naruto with that one character who can actually control and manipulate shadows, and that's like a common trope for like anime, or like people who are trained in like ninja arts or whatever to be able to do. So that still fits in with the personality of his team. And I think Gengar, Grovyle, Incineroar and Hariyama really fit that. The only one that's still kind of questionable is Sableye, and I think the reason he picked that is like it's because it's something that's impish, mysterious, a little misunderstood, something that's like kind of out on their own. And I know, I mean, most young men feel that way sometimes too, but also him being the only man in the house, like full of women, could obviously play a role in that as well. Um, and then, so finally, after all that, after he makes his family goodbyes, I think what's best for him is to start off and travel on his own outside of Hoenn, outside of Kanto, and really make a name for himself. And because he's on this sort of hero's quest, I think it's most fitting for him to want to go over to Galar and go to a region that's really inspired by old English mythology of knights, legends, heroes, people, you know, rescuing each other. It just it fits the aesthetic really well. So he's trying to make a name for himself out there. And I think the last member of his team actually comes from this idea. I mean, it's going to be Appleton, obviously. And when you see Appleton, it's not really imposing at all. It's this big, chunky boy. And you would think that it's actually like just a big tank, but it's really not. It's really, if you look at its size, like officially, it's pretty small. It's like pretty handheld. It's like this big, goopy thing. And I talked about Appleton before because it's one of my favorites too. But it's basically just this idea of like the worm in the apple and then growing over and growing big, right? But how does Garrett get Appleton in the first place? Well, traditionally in the game, the way you get the sweet apple you need to evolve it is when you talk to an NPC. He says, "Look, I really need this." Because I really want to impress this girl I like before she leaves, and she's always wanted an Appleton, and I want to catch it for her. Will you give me one, right? And in that instance, I feel like it's this real big tug where you have to be self-sacrificing and give something to a stranger, even though you might really love it. But in return, obviously, that they don't actually take your Pokemon away because you know the girl's like, oh, I wish it would have come from you because I like you, hee whatever. But then the guy gives it back with a token of thanks, and then that's how you can eventually make it evolve. But I think this would be a good lesson for just like a lot of people to learn in general. And it's this idea of being self-sacrificing that truly makes a hero. I mean, obviously not to a toxic extent, but being able to help someone out no matter who they are, where they come from, is a really big lesson I think young people should learn. And I think that's what he gets his biggest takeaway from Galar is that yes, I can fight and I can be the traditional hero, but if I hold on to these resentments and if I keep closing myself off and suspecting the worst of others, then how can I truly make myself a hero and be self-sacrificing and give myself to them, right? So I think Appleton is a symbol of that, and because it looks so dopey and like, I don't know, cute, and for me, Appleton also reminds us of our dog back home, because he's this really big, fat, dopey thing that can like barely breathe. Um, I don't know if that's his reasoning for liking it. I don't know. I have my own, but I think that is one of the main reasons. But also, it is a dragon type. It's like looks can be deceiving. You know, it is something that's really powerful in its own, even though it looks so innocent. And I think that's something that was really missing from his team is being able to see inner strength as well, not just outer strength, but working on what's inside and the goodness inside. And for me, I think that's why it completes this team so well, at least psychologically. And it kind of just gives a sense of maturity to it, you know? It's not just the angsty teenage boy team with all the cool guys like Incineroar from Smash or like whatever, but it's something that I don't know, I think reflects his development as a young man. And I don't know, I think it's pretty fitting. I'm not sure what he'll think. He might be kind of embarrassed by this, that I'm like putting out his emotions full blast. And when I just saw that team, I did a lot of thinking on it. And I think that, I don't know, I think everyone's favorites tell a story, right? And I hope he enjoys this one. Obviously, his team kind of has some doubles. It does have like multiple grass typings and multiple dark typings, I believe. But it's not a bad team overall. It's just one glaring weakness is probably to fairy. And I think that's funny because my mom had mostly fairy types on her team, and fairy type's one of my favorite types too. And I guess you can kind of infer that Garrett has the soft spot for some of the people in his family, which is obviously true. Uh, I know that he would have my back no matter what, and like I don't know, I'm just really lucky to have a brother that I'm so close to, even though I'm not, even though like we're a few, not even a few, but we're in different parts of the country right now, and we're so far away. I love the fact that if either one of us needed each other for something, like no matter what, all bets are off. Like booking plane tickets, doing whatever, you know, it's not a single doubt in my mind that he's been so supportive of me. And all my life decisions. And sometimes I feel like I wish I could do more for him. I just love him so much. He he's always the life of the party. He's so happy. I know I make fun of him for being angsty and all of his angsty Pokemon choices, but he's really funny. And I don't know, he can make anybody smile no matter what. And that's something I admire. And he's just a really cool guy. So I know I'm putting on my YouTube channel, but I don't think I'm gonna post this to Facebook necessarily. I think I'm just gonna end up sending it to him privately for him to see because he's more of a private guy. I mean, my mom doesn't care. My mom puts fucking everything on Facebook, and she's more popular than I am with like the middle-aged crowd or whatever. She would probably go viral before any of us would. So, like, that's no problem. But I know Garrett's a little bit more private, so I will have this up on my channel. But I think that I'm just gonna, send it in privately so he won't get embarrassed if I like put it on Facebook or whatever and reveal that he has emotions, because guys don't have emotions or whatever. But anyway, happy birthday, Garrett. I love you and I miss you so, so much. And I hope that I'm going to be home and I'll see you again soon. Okay, bye.